Hi, this is Lance with Autism Playbook. Today we're going to be talking about ABLE accounts or 529A accounts and if they could be a benefit for your child with autism. So part one is going to be the decision. I'm hopefully going to give you enough information that you can decide if you feel like you should open an ABLE account or not. And if you decide you should, go on to my next video, part two. If not, we're good. Just a brief history. ABLE account was created by Achieving a Better Life Experience, or ABLE Act of 2013, which created Section 529A of the Internal Revenue Code. I have tax training, and so I love to dig into the code to try to understand these things. And it has some similarities with the Section 529 College Savings Plan. If you're familiar with that, you'll kind of have a leg up on this. If not, we'll get you there. So what is an ABLE account? It's a savings or investment account. Basically, just to give an example, you could invest, say your child is diagnosed with autism when he or she is 3, and you decide to invest $1,000 a year until they're 18 for transition to adulthood type expenses. Again, you could invest this in the short term and pay it out next year. You could invest way past 18, whatever. This is just my example. So you're putting $1,000 a year in for 15 years. You're basically putting 15,000 of your own dollars. Let's say that you've invested this and the market over that period has returned 6% for you. You come away with $23,000 on your $15,000 investment. You basically made $8,000, and that money will not be taxed, and you can pay that out for qualified disability expenses, that sort of thing. And so let's just here we go. So again, just that example, you're saving that money. You can pay it out anytime for qualified disability expenses. It's tax advantage. You're not going to pay tax on any of the earnings as long as they're used for those expenses. So let's talk about what those expenses are. So this is straight out of the code, but qualified disability expense is basically anything for an individual with a disability relating to education, housing, transportation, employment training, health, prevention, wellness. You can kind of read the list here. When you first read this list, it seems incredibly broad. I don't know that the intent of Congress is for it to be so broad, but I would just, from my reading, my understanding, I would say on the safe side is that you can spend it on anything related to a person with disabilities. So your child with autism, anything you have to pay for because they have autism that falls in one of these buckets, I think you can feel pretty safe about. So it is broad, which is nice, because sometimes plans like this are a little tighter. And then you may get a state tax deduction. So back to the example, some states, and right now it appears to be these 7 states, only these states right now have an ABLE plan. If you don't live in one of these states, you can use any state's plan that you choose, and that's going to be in part 2. But these states give you a state tax deduction. So for instance, if you were going to put $1,000 in and your state tax rate was, say, 8%, you would save $80 on your state taxes this year. So let's talk a bit about, this is an important point, just coordination with public benefits. And if this feels like I'm racing through, I am trying to get this in under 10 minutes because I don't want it to drag on forever. But please email me, see my contact with any questions you have. I'd be happy to walk you through. So with Social Security, if you have certain threshold of assets or income, you don't qualify. And so your child with autism, it's important to note that an ABLE account is in their name. So you control it, but it's actually their asset. And so for public benefits like Social Security and Medicaid, Social Security will exempt up to $100K. And so one reason the public is so keen on ABLE accounts is for a long time, people who had a disability had no incentive to save, because if they saved a very little amount, they would lose their Social Security benefits. Now people with a disability can save up to $100K in their own name, which is cool. With Medicaid, there's no limit. So if you're on Medicaid, you can put as much as you want in an ABLE account and not be disqualified. And in this case, if you save over 100, you only lose your benefits while you're over 100. If that ticks back down below, you're fine. One kind of strange provision in here that I think I feel okay about at this point, but at first I kind of wondered if it was a deal breaker. Had to really think it through, but Medicaid can file a final claim on an ABLE account if the person with an ABLE account happens to pass away. So for instance, if the person with an ABLE account, after paying out all of their final medical expenses and burial and things like that, there was some money left and it was below what the state had paid over the years in Medicaid, the state could actually claim that money. Now, if that account was in excess of what the state had paid, the state would only get what they had paid over the years. So it's kind of a strange thing. I think I'm okay with it. I don't think it's like a deal breaker in my opinion. And then just quick note on eligibility. I very much assume any of you that has a child with autism that's under 18 would be eligible, but the disability has to be sustained prior to age 26, so we're good there. And then an individual with a severe disability, as evidenced by they automatically or qualify for Enable under 26 if they are receiving SSI or SSDI. And then if not, they can get a disability certificate from their doctor. And so in this case, if you were going to apply for an Enable account, the state would tell you what they require. And so they would give you instruction on getting that disability certificate. But from what I understand, someone with autism is pretty much a rubber stamp there, and it's just getting a doctor to sign off that your child has autism, which you probably already have. So when does it make sense? Again, as parents with children with autism, we don't have a lot of extra time and energy. And so I would hate for somebody to go through this whole ABLE process when it doesn't benefit them. And so I would say where I think it really makes sense is if you're going to save for the long term. So back to my example here, if you're going to put a couple thousand a year in for a very long time, long enough that you have a horizon where you can invest safely in stocks and bonds, then I think it makes a lot of sense because you're putting money away and you're growing it, hopefully, and you're getting tax-free growth. And so that's a time when I think it makes sense. In addition to that, from everything I've read and understand, that this can be used for education, for tuition, for college. And so if you have a child with a disability and you're already saving in a 529, you might start saving in an ABLE instead, because it appears you can use it for tuition. And then it's much more broad. A 529 you can only use for qualified education expenses, but an ABLE you can use for quite a few more things. So I think it makes sense if you're going to save for the long term. I think it could also make sense if you're going to use it short term, if you're getting a state tax deduction. So for instance, if you're going to need to pay out whatever you put in your ABLE account over the next couple of years, that's not long term. You're not really going to be able to comfortably invest in stocks and bonds. So you're not really going to make any earnings on that. So you're not going to benefit from those tax-free earnings. But if your state's going to give you, 4 to 8% back, and you're going to put 1,000 or a couple thousand a year, you might be able to save, $50, $100, $150 a year in state taxes. And so it might be worth it to you then, especially if your state offers something like a debit card where it's literally, you're just transferring this to your ABLE account and then you're using your ABLE debit card to pay. That could be a very simple way to just get a little tax break on your disability expenses. So that's another time I think it could make sense. So again, at the end of this, if you feel like you're going to put away money for the long term for your child's disability, I would strongly consider getting an ABLE. If you're not going to put away money for the long term, but the state of your residence offers a tax deduction and you're going to put a significant amount in each year, a couple thousand, maybe even 1,000, but 1,000 to a couple thousand, I would also very much consider an ABLE account in that scenario as well. Other considerations, some people think this supplants a special needs trust. I would not agree. I'm going to do a piece on special needs trust. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to give you my opinion on that. Also, I would check out this website, ablenrc.org. They have a ton of content out there. I was really impressed, but they have like 17 hours of videos. I don't think you need to wade through 17 hours of videos, but if you have specific questions, again, please reach out to me via email or go out here and check them out. I think they've done a really nice job. It's just very comprehensive. And I waded through a lot of it for you. I don't think you want to, but if you want to check out some videos, have one-off questions, check it out. And then again, if you decide to open an Enable account, go out to that same site, review your state, and then jump into part 2, and I'll try to help you from there select which state plan that you want to use. Hope this has been helpful. Let me know, reach out to me, email, social media, whatever. Tell me what you think. Tell me what other questions you have. Again, I want this to be for you. I think ABLE accounts can be a cool opportunity. They don't make sense for all of us with a child with autism, but they may make sense for some of us. And again, I don't want you to waste your time if it doesn't make sense for you, but if it does and you can get a benefit, I want to help you with that. So thanks for watching. And again, jump to part 2 if you think you want in on an ABLE account. See ya.